out. I imagine we'll have some cheap stomping grounds back on the market.
Yeah, definitely. So I assume Cedric was pretty excited to see goblins.
He was very excited.
We get to see it too.
Kid in a candy shop with additional candy at home.
Now I missed it. What did he beat? It was goblins versus what?
It was goblins versus Pox.
Okay.
Yep. He just took him to school. Nothing he could really do. He opened on the play on turn 1 Lackey and a CG Commander, followed by Mod War Marshal, with a Goblin Ringleader hitting 4 goblins, and that's...
Yeah, sounds like a blowout, yeah.
We're done here.
Alright, these guys have their openers.
Looks like both players are keeping. I think Kyrie's on the play. Nope, Jonathan's on the play. He looked like she announced first. No turn 1.
Arid Mesa from Jonathan.
That probably means Jonathan's dead.
It's possible.
Just a guess.
This is the kind of kickoff return. I'm sorry. This is the kind of deck that. There's a Street Wraith. Wait a minute. What does that do? That's not even a magic card.
If you're a Goblins player, you see this one go down. You're like, oh, nothing good ever came from a turn 1 Street Wraith.
Turn 1 Street Wraith cycles. Second Street Wraith cycles.
Yeah, nobody did anything ever friendly with a 56 card deck, I think, as a general rule.
That sounds accurate. I don't know that anybody does anything friendly with any card, any number of card decks, right? I mean, nobody's like, well, I guess there's such thing as the group hug deck, right? It's like, I'm just going to play life gain and card draw spells for all my fellow players.
Well, it looks like Kyrie kept a little bit of a speculative hand on those Street Wraiths and didn't get there on turn 1. Fortunately, she's playing a matchup that both doesn't have an especially fast clock. It has a pretty good one, but not a rocket one. And also has no disruption.
Right, no force of will, no way to really...
She can sort of take her time. Note that she did hold her land despite the fact that she drew it, which is definitely correct. You don't want to expose yourself to Wasteland or Rashadan Port.
So she actually has a Stomping Ground in play? I mean,
she has a Stomping Ground in her hand, in
Obviously
addition to 2 copies of Goblin Charbelcher itself. I've seen that much, and a Desperate Ritual. So she's relatively close, but...
There's a Mog War Marshal, and there's a Deadpool token. Representing a goblin. It's red, it works. Gitaxian Probe, show us what you got.
Well, she's going to be pretty excited by what she sees, which is, again, Airball.
Goblins.
Not much. I would like to play these tiny red creatures.
So I think she said this is her second tournament ever.
She's going to probe again. I believe I heard something to that effect, yeah.
She apparently was also featured when Chapin and Cedric were doing commentary. So this is actually also her second camera match.
Oh, wow.
That's, pretty impressive average for getting on camera in tournaments.
Looks like we might be missing a way to get from 1 to 2 mana to start going. Nope, we have an Elder Spirit Guide. I think we must have just found it.
Yeah.
Go to 10.
There's a yeah. What is that? That's a weird looking taiga.
We got a reader on Stomping Ground. That's a good one. And then Elder Spirit Guide into Desperate Ritual, right?
I believe so. Yeah. I think we can just put up on the screen we got a reader, because I don't think Jonathan has any idea what's going on.
Well, I guess we could Manamorphose first.
Yeah, it looks like that's her plan. So there's Manamorphose. He's not going to counter it, but he's going to read it. Okay, so she draws off the Manamorphose.
She needs very little to just go off right here.
There's a Ritual.
We're up to 3. We only have to count to 7. Note that getting to 4 is significantly worse than it usually is. We don't have Lionside Diamonds in our deck, so we can't just kill the opponent when we eventually draw one. And we also have to worry about mana disruption.
There's a...
well, that was 4. We've resolved Charbelcher on 0 mana. Looks like that was our plan, though. We're going to try and just eventually get up there with Charbelcher. I don't think I like that plan. Mostly because now, we're going to lose anyways to start with mana. One of the hurdles of that hand was we didn't have a way to get from 1 to 2. We had found the Spirit Guides to do it, and managed to rocket ourselves up. Now we have to rebuild all of that from the ground up with no Stomping Ground. Because we're going to get, at a minimum, ported and maybe wastelanded. If you're Jonathan, I'm pretty sure you'd much rather be porting than casting a spell this turn.
Yeah, at this point, if you're Jonathan, just Yeah, just keep porting and attacking for as long as you can get away with it, and if you can add threats to the board as well.
I think I like this fine if we have another Desperate Ritual in our hand, because that's being an instant, I think. I believe it is an instant.
I'll check on that.
Then you can go off in your upkeep and you're fine. I'm pretty sure the 2-mana ones are instants.
It is.
Yeah.
It's also arcane.
Ooh. So if we have one of the 2-mana rituals in our hand, then I guess it's fine because we're on 6 outs to just go off.
Right.
Thing is, like, a lot of the cards that we have in our deck are dead now. Like, we can't draw Tinderwall. We can't draw, Rite of Flame.
Well, Bloodstained Mire finds a mountain for Jonathan. He has the port set aside there. Seems like a clear indication that he's intending to hold the port for use.
Scarred Prospector. Not really the beatdown, but this is still a 3-turn clock now on Kyrie.
There's upkeep. Tap your not the Charbelcher.
Teehee.
The Stomping Ground is tapped, so
not quite sure what we drew there. I thought it might be a Manamorphose, not 100%.
Yeah, she's keeping the cards close to the vest, in the shadows there. Can't get a very good look.
One of our viewers has pointed out that the Spirit Guides are erroneously placed in the graveyard rather than the
That's right, they should be exiled, right?
Not really relevant to the matchup, but good catch.
Players, we just need 2 more people to go to a standard winner box. Just 2 more people for a standard winner box. Unfortunately, it looks like our modern winner box will not be launched. So if you wanted to
now they're exiled.
To those last couple of spots in the standard, now's a good time to come on.
Yeah, set the port aside, says Jonathan. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that Jonathan's familiar with the deck. He didn't read the Charbelcher, so I imagine he must be familiar with it at least somewhat. And there's nothing too tricky anymore about Charbelcher. It's just she's going to try to activate Charbelcher, and you just need to stop her or kill her first, right? You need to just like.
Peculiarly, he has set aside his port, but he has a Wasteland. It seems like it's probably just better to Wasteland than Stomping Ground.
Yeah, Wasteland taps it indefinitely. Yeah.
Wasteland will cut off a number of routes, including Spirit Guide plus one of the 2-mana rituals. It might actually, because she doesn't have Lion's Eye Diamonds, just mean game over. So, yeah.
Yeah, so there's the Wasteland for the Stomping Ground, so that's bad news for Kyrie.
Now she needs to find, like, Chrome Mox and two rituals from there. We know she doesn't have any of the rituals because she would have cast them to Charbelcher her opponent to death. So she may potentially have a Chrome Mox. That's one of the cards I could see her having and having not played.
So Jonathan taps 3 and plays a red card. Passes back.
Looks like a Gem Palm Incinerator, which I guess we play here. It doesn't seem relevant. It doesn't change the clock at all. We have a Lotus Petal. That's Lotus Petal, boys.
All right.
We're
Lotus
live.
Petal.
Oh, we got a red flame. Oh, we got another one. No, there we go.
There it is. Charbelcher activated.
All right.
And Charbelcher.
Turn the deck over.
Yeah.
Got there in the nick of time.
There it is. Kyrie Coffield takes the game, and wow, that's just how it works. It's such a weird thing. We're just sitting here. Everything seems to be moving very slowly.
All right, so we definitely had at least one of those when we went off with the Charbelcher based on our draw steps. So I'm curious which one it was. Whether I feel like it was probably the ritual, and then she drew the petal. That's my guess, right? Because she couldn't cast the Rite of Flame on the last turn, but even if she had it, but she could have if she had a petal.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. So I feel like that was probably it. We went off and just held on to 2 rituals and then found the petal.
So, just judging from what's happening right now, Kyrie already shuffling.
Yeah, she's done here. Sideboard,
Ha!
is our sideboard entry, which is a real missed opportunity. Obviously, we've had some nice sideboards. We've had the mostly ATOG sideboard. That was one of my favorites.
Well, I hadn't seen that one.
I think it was 13 different singleton ATOGs.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then there was definitely a random P3K card and something else. I can't even remember. It was definitely good times. Big fan of that sideboard. The 15 Islands, classic as well.
Right,
Classic
I remember that one.
I might go with Relentless Rats. I feel like that'd be my calling card if I was designing a Charbelcher sideboard. Plus, you know, sometimes you just gotta Manamorphose your way in, you know?
Yeah. Would be pretty entertaining to actually side in Relentless Rats.
Oh, I would definitely run the Relentless Rat sideboard and shuffle all 15 in and then just take all 15 immediately back out. Pretty easy to find the Relentless Rat.
That's true, that's true. But the Ha is good too.
Yeah.
I like that too. I only own 60 cards.
60 cards, yeah, that's all we need.
It's like somebody give me a pack of standard cards. And
60 cards is good enough for game 1.
Yeah, just a booster pack as our sideboard.
Looking to the sideboard, Jonathan has one highly relevant card in Mindbreak Trap ×3. And that's basically it. I guess theoretically Ancient Grudge is better than some of the things he's doing, because it'll keep Kyrie from being able to like float a Chrome Mox or a Lotus Petal through multiple turns.
Sure.
But the Mindbreak Traps are for sure in. Everything else pretty questionable beyond the one Ancient Grudge.
I mean, she's shown the willingness to plop the Charbelcher down without actually being able to activate it. So leaving it open to an artifact removal spell like Ancient Grudge, you know, if I'm Jonathan, I'm bringing that in because she did it last game. She might do it again.
Keep in mind too that Goblins is a deck that can actually answer an artifact that's in play. Jonathan had simply drawn his Tuk Scrapper.
Oh sure, yeah.
That would have been pretty awkward.
It's a one of, but yeah. Wouldn't have been that awkward. She, I think, would have scooped. And we would have been in the same situation. Game over very quickly. Jonathan would have been up a game as opposed to Kyrie. So it does seem like a fun deck to play. You just got to put the pieces together and see what happens. Just kind of let it ride.
Jonathan will have the play once again. He's going to need it. Jonathan looking for Mindbreak Trap and or a very explosive start. The thing is, even Goblin's best starts are not really on par with a Charbelcher start, so a form of interaction like Mindbreak Trap becomes even more important.
Kyrie mulliganing again. Not for this game, but for the match. She mulliganed to 6.
Jonathan keeps. So, what do you think the percentage chance is that he has a Mindbreak Trap in his hand? Just ballpark. He kept pretty quickly. Seems pretty happy.
Did. I'm
thinking
he's not.
He's not antsy about it. I think it seems pretty high.
Yeah.
I'd put him on 70-ish. Maybe.
I was thinking. I was actually going 65, but
65, all right. I feel like it's likely he has one. Oh yeah, he's so happy.
He does seem very happy. So maybe you're right.
Life's easy.
Having 3, you don't see 3 Mindbreak Traps in people's boards that often. Like
not that often. It used to be a big deal, but not so much these days.
Yeah, I asked her what she lost to because she's X and 1, and she said something with Force of Will. Generally happens.
That was all I saw. It was over in a flash.
She was like, it was actually Counterbalance Top, which also
Yuck, yeah.
probably had Force of Will as well. So counterspells tend to be pretty relevant.
We're going to 5. That means Jonathan, if he does have a Mindbreak Trap, basically has it. There's not a lot Kyrie can really do on 5 cards to try and beat that card. Beyond hope her opponent plays no spells for a very long time.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting, you know, the backup plan. Because if all they could defeat this deck is counter your Goblin Charbelcher, it wouldn't be a very, very good deck. It does have the backup plan of empty the Warrens against the counterspell deck. So
the issue is that empty's not that great against Goblins because it can actually create a lot of creatures, like between Siege Commander lackeying in and Mog War Marshal. You can actually create enough creatures that the Empty the Warrens is not going to deal lethal before you deal lethal. And another problem is when you're on a mulligan to 5, it's hard to actually cast enough spells to empty the Warrens your opponent. Like,
yeah, I'm just more pointing to the Force of Will matchup.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That's Plan A is Goblin Charbelcher, and in the Force of Will matchups, I think.
No Mindbreak Trap.
Look at that.
Gitaxian Probe reveals actually a pretty mediocre hand.
Goblin Matron, Goblin Sharpshooter,
I'm surprised
Mog War
we kept
Marshal,
this one. It's not aggressive. It can beat Empty the Warrens and very little else. I wouldn't be surprised if Kyrie takes this one down and Jonathan finds himself thinking, man, I should have mulliganed for my Mindbreak Trap.
With about 30 minutes to go get something to eat.
Yeah. I mean, like, any hand that has Goblin Lackey and a pretty good Goblin is strictly better than this hand, like, assuming it can cast the Lackey.
So there's a War Marshal and the Deadpool again.
Looks like we drew a Mox there. I can see Metamorphose, maybe a Desperate Ritual, something like that.
Yeah, so obviously Plan A is Charbelcher. She sticks with Plan A in this particular matchup.
2 Poetic Rituals and an Empty the Warrens, plus her Chrome Mox are for sure in her hand. Having seen her opponent's hand, which includes Goblin Sharpshooter, I can't imagine she's Gonna go for the Empty the Warrens. It seems pretty unlikely
yeah.
she'd be able to kill him before he could kill all of them.
All the more reason to stick with Plan A. So, Chrome Mox, imprinting Manamorphose.
Okay.
Now, obviously it doesn't matter in this matchup, but if you're playing Chrome Mox, wait till it resolves before you imprint.
Yeah, that's true. She does have to be wary of the Goblin Matron in Johnson's hand, also searching up Tuk Tuk Scrapper next turn. That's something to concern yourself
Yeah,
with.
she needs to go off now. There's Ritual.
Empty?
Empty. So she's going to play Goblins too.
What's her last card in hand? Why is that not under the Chrome Mox instead of Manamorphose?
Yeah, it's a good question. Because
We actually had the out of Charbelcher, right? Like, maybe I'm counting it wrong. No, I guess unless it's a Ritual, yeah. We did not have an out. He's considering the Echo, I guess. I would not pay it here. I think we're just going to do that, play land, play Sharpshooter, and pass the turn.
10 Goblins for Kyrie versus 2 Goblins for the Goblins deck. Not the usual situation when it comes to a Goblin, a match featuring Goblins.
Pretty curious as to what that last card is.
Yeah, me too. Because, I mean, maybe could it be the Stomping Grounds? You know, that's one card you're not going to imprint on the Chrome Mox.
Yeah.
She obviously needed red mana, so it could be Tinderwall.
Yeah, I could see that. It could be a Tinderwall. That's reasonable, but yeah, that's definitely one of the ones it could be. Good call.
If it was a Simian Spirit Guide, she could have just used that to produce the red rather than the Chrome Mox, although...
Maybe it might be another Empty the Orange from the look of it, in which case definitely I think it should be under that Chrome Mox, but... Why did he... Do we not know what's in his... Oh, this is the same difference, actually. He drew a War Chief. That's better than playing Sharpshooter, because he can just play a hasted Sharpshooter next turn, so... He's declining to block, doesn't want to leave any of this to chance, doesn't want to lose his guy to like a Grape Shot or something crazy.
And we do believe it was another Empty the Warrens. So yeah, I'm surprised. That could have been an extra goblin and an extra card for her.
It would have been an extra 2 goblins at a minimum. Could have been more depending on like what you peel into. Like, you know, sometimes the top of your deck is just 4 Manamorphoses, and
right.
That's just the life you live.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, we're going to see Goblin Sharpshooter very likely here.
Yeah.
There it is. It has haste.
And
it's going to machine gun away all of those goblins. Now, she knew it was there. She should have maybe read it then. Because...
Joey, ice cold.
I'm sorry, I'm just saying, you know, if you don't know what a card does, if you see it in your opponent's hand, you probably want to read it then.
Well, in this case, it's going to kill all of her non-Chrome Mox permanents.
Yes, so there go all the goblins on that side of the board.
So now Kyrie's going to be trying to go off again from scratch. It's going to be tough. Goblin Matron's going to dig up Tuk Tuk Scrapper, I imagine, and leave her with actual nothing on the next turn. He might go get something a little more threatening. Maybe he values, you know, just getting a sweet goblin instead of killing the artifact. Like, he could go get a Pile Driver and plan to attack for 7.
Sure.
To put her on a 2-turn clock. I think that's completely reasonable as well.
Yeah, it's kind of... yeah, it's like, what do you want to be? Do you want to kind of be the beatdown or the control, right?
Ooh.
Cheeky jeeky.
That's a little too cute, I think, but it's alright. I understand the impulse to kiki jiki on camera.
So, we know that Kyrie can go off with, you know, starting with no permanence. So,
starting with 2 cards.
Right now, it's looking a lot more difficult. So, I guess if I'm Jonathan, I'd probably search for a non-Tuk Tuk Scrapper card here. I think I would have went with Pile Driver, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I think Pile Driver is probably better.
It has the biggest
impact. To be honest, they're all basically the same. Taking away a mana is probably the same as accelerating your kill by a turn in this particular matchup.
Sure. I think she just drew a Ritual.
Well, you should also keep in mind that Jonathan doesn't know Kyrie's list. He doesn't realize she doesn't have things like LED and Burning Wish.
Sure.
So, you know, in that case, he might be even willing to play like more carefully around an explosive opening. With a Rite of Flame in the graveyard, I think, like, is there even a 3-card Charbelcher kill? I don't think so. I think you still need 4.
Well, there's Kiki Jiki.
It looks like we overpaid on our Kiki Jiki.
Yeah, I was thinking
by
that too.
one.
It naturally costs 5, but it's cheaper because of the
Which
goblin
this actually
ward.
lets us go get our pile driver if we so choose. Kiki Jiki should be tapped if we're using it, though.
Yeah.
What are we
Oh,
doing?
yeah. So he played it, but did not use it right away. But
So he is matroning.
then played Aether Vial with the 5th mana.
Oh, he's... What's going on?
So that is a copy of Matron. That's what that's
Oh, okay,
supposed
that's
to be.
supposed to be. I got
Yeah.
it.
He used it to represent generic goblin earlier in the match, or in the game and the match.
Yeah.
So it was a little confusing. So Matron copy searching up the goblin chieftain.
Yeah, Jonathan's basically just kind of, this is how I want to kill this person on camera at this point. Sharpshooter, casually in back.
Chieftain's in his hand. Yeah.
War Marshal's in the graveyard, right?
Yes.
Just getting a little unclear as to which zones are which.
It definitely is. I don't see his library.
Feels like it's moving closer and closer to being in play.
There's his library. Sorry, I was thinking he
they
had
just
black.
put it back over.
Yeah, I see. Okay. So, well, yeah. Now it's in play.
Now that guy just
That
is in play, right?
Mog War
Like,
Marshal
I'm not
is
out of my
not
mind.
supposed to
Can
be
we
in
kill
play.
that guy?
Yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
there we go.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. He's good. He ain't Icarus good.
Just note, if you're ever on camera, should be pretty clear where you're supposed to keep the cards. There's big pieces of tape on the table. You keep them in bounds, and we can see them. It's not that tough to figure out. You can kind of see the tape on screen if you're watching right now. There's gray tape there at the bottom.
I imagine we're going to copy our Glorious Anthem with legs this time, right?
Yeah, I would think so, just to add,
We're also,
5
I think
more
we're
power
missing
to
a
the
life
board?
total update from the last turn. Our opponent should be at, yeah, I was about to say, it looks like about 14. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 if we do that. So yeah, I think we're going to do that and attack for lethal with a copied Goblin
Chieftain. Yep. And yeah, that should be enough to go to game
It's
3
8 damage
here.
and pump and 7 damage from the creature's power and toughness themselves.
Now I think Kyrie should sideboard into plan A. Well, she learned the power of Goblin Sharpshooter against the Empty the Warrens. If she didn't know it already. It didn't appear that she knew it already.
Yeah, Sharpshooter, highly accurate, actually.
Yeah, I guess that's why they call it Sharpshooter.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you
acronym.
don't see Sharpshooter in a lot of Goblins list. It was definitely,
It was a staple for a long time. It has kind of like fallen out of favor in recent times, but it's a perfectly reasonable card.
Oh yeah, it's not a shock to see it, but it's also not as common as I remember it being at one point.
I think it kind of comes and goes with the tide of Maverick, generally speaking, and Elves
Good call,
obviously is
yeah,
another deck that it's highly vulnerable to.
What else can you machine gun down? Yeah, like are there targets for the Sharpshooter?
Yep.
This match actually lasting a lot longer than I expected it to.
Yep. I think Jonathan got a little lucky with that keep, though. I still don't like his keep on the play on 7. It wasn't even an aggressive hand. Like, if his opponent wasn't on the Empty the Warren Spine, or even if she just didn't do it, like if she just waited a little while, could have been disastrous for him if she just happened to find a Charbelcher. His hand was very slow.
Which deck would you rather be here going into game 3?
Probably. You know, I generally like to control my own destiny, but problem here is if I choose goblins, I still don't get to control my own destiny.
Right.
Really, I'm trying to find that mind break trap.
Yeah.
So it's really just, I think that's what it comes down to, and I'd rather be the deck that wins when the opponent fails. So I'd probably take Charbelcher, I guess.
Sure. I think I'm with you. As much as I enjoy playing with goblins, I'd be more likely to take goblins into a tournament than Charbelcher. For one game, going into game 3 right here.
Yeah,
I
in
think
this
I'd rather
situation.
be rather be the Charbelcher deck. I think I'd maybe always rather be the Charbelcher deck against a non-Force of Will opponent.
Potentially, sure.
But,
Unless they're like a strictly better combo deck, that could be.
Sure. I think generally that's one of the reasons not to bring Charbelcher to a tournament, because there's there's not a lot of non-Force of Will opponents. Let's put it that way. Force of Will, pretty popular card in Legacy. Counterbalance top, maybe not as common as Force of Will, but fairly common, and those can really put the brakes on. They just shut you out entirely. So I don't know that Jonathan. I didn't see him go back to the sideboard. I think he kept his 60 the same.
Probably.
Still, I do like the fact that, I mean, this is one of the things that makes Legacy exciting too. Players show up with Charbelcher. You know, like that's just, it's a deck you can play and you can X1 with it, yeah, or top 8. Who knows?
Must be something going on in that match next door.
Yeah.
Everybody's interested.
Jonathan's looking over there.
The guy behind our match just walked over to that one and wants to watch.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's not really much happening on the table for us. Jonathan just pauses mid-shuffle. He's got like both stacks, thumbs poised, and just froze for a second.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
some sort of judge ruling happening.
Everybody
on
loves
that
those.
side. Yeah, controversy, drama. Real Housewives of Magic the Gathering. that too.
And bam, we've got one of those pop cultures in there. Cedric will be so sad he missed it.
Are you practicing your signature, Glenn?
No, I'm actually doodling. I don't know what I'm doodling though. It's kind of odd. My signature does look similar to this swooping line structure I've created though. A little different.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, there was a big rest in peace controversy happening.
Tough card. It looks like Jonathan actually. Yeah, he has a hand. Okay, that's 7 cards. He's considering.
He doesn't
look excited
He
now.
doesn't look excited, but
he was excited about a hand I thought was pretty bad last time. So,
yeah, so
maybe he's just got a good poker face.
yeah, it's like he's gonna mulligan is what he's gonna do.
He's mulliganing.
He looks at the top and
top
goes,
card,
"Oh, it was
should've
exactly
kept."
what I wanted." Yeah.
It's always what you should. Every time you think you should mulligan, except if you draw the card, just keep it. Obviously, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
Especially if you're my opponent, I would really appreciate you to adopt this particular mannerism.
There's that story from a few years ago when Kibler just came back, I think, and I don't know if it was at a GP or what. I think it was at a GP, where Kibler and Chapin must have been sitting near each other during the tournament, and somebody mulliganed and looked, and you know. And Kibler, I think it was Kibler, said something about not looking. Like, you shouldn't even look. Like, it's not going to help you any. You know, you can't take it back. You might as well not look. And Chapin said, well, no, it could give you more information. And the person who mulliganed said to Kibler, I'm going to listen to him because he's a pro, pointing to Chapin. I'm going to listen to Chapin because he's a pro. He's a pro player. It was one of those, didn't know who Kibler was, right?
I guess, to be fair, at that time, Kibler
he was just
player.
coming
Even
back.
If you know who Kibler
true,
was,
right.
you're like, you're all washed up. I'm going to listen to this guy.
Exactly.
Jataxian Pro, we see the Mindbreak Trap. Oh, we've got a tough one ahead of us.
All right, definitely read the Mindbreak Trap if you're not sure. Just checking it out.
The key to going off against a Mindbreak Trap, if you're playing Charbelcher, is actually you probably do want to adopt the plan of getting the Charbelcher into play and then activating it, because it's relatively easy to get a well, I shouldn't say easy, but it's very doable to get a Charbelcher into play through 2 rituals and to activate it through 2 rituals, and that keeps the Mindbreak Trap from turning on.
Otherwise, taking a look here now, the good news for Jonathan is if she goes on that plan, or he expects her to go on that plan, he can just matron up the Scrapper, and you know, she can get the Charbelcher into play, and then he plays Scrapper and takes it out. So
yeah, she's definitely in a tight spot here.
So he's got what? Bloodstained Mire, Double Wasteland, Lackey, Matron.
Yeah, this is actually a pretty good hand for him.
Trap.
I would be very happy to have this 6 over most 7s I can think of. It's much better than the average 7. Well, if we use Taxing Probe, we can cast one more spell to get ourselves set up, which we probably should. We have a land. Oh, do we have the land? We have a dead land grant? Oh, that's not good. Yep, we already have our Stomping Ground in hand, so land grant doesn't do anything. We can't really do too much else from this position without exposing ourselves to Mindbreak Trap, as much as we might like to.
Well, if he wants to use a Mindbreak Trap on something silly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she may be able to do something here.
The vulnerable part about that is, like, even if, you know, you try and trick him, and you just cast some rituals hoping you'll Mindbreak Trap one of those and he doesn't, and then, like, your best cap to that has to be Empty the Warrens. But even that's not that good against a Mindbreak Trap. You lose 3 copies.
Yeah.
Like, that removes a lot of its power. Yeah.
She plays the Stomping Ground, interestingly.
I don't like that.
Especially knowing there's Wastelands in multiples in Jonathan's hand.
I think maybe she's thinking, maybe if I can trick him into playing the Wasteland, then he won't be able to go Lackey into Matron into Scrapper.
Right.
But that's probably not going to work out here. She has Seething Song, Rite of Flame,
Spirit Guide.
Spirit Guide is also a nice way to help you beat that Mindbreak Trap.
Yeah. I think she may have
two
both Spirit Guide. Yeah,
yep.
Red and green. Yeah.
All right. Well, we might have a hand that can actually fight through our trap here pretty well.
And she's gonna try it. So exile.
Well, I think exile. I am perhaps misremembering Mindbreak Trap. Is it exile all spells or just?
I think it's all.
You're right. Yeah. So you would lose all the copies of thing. I was thinking it exiled 3 spells and required 3 spells, but that's obviously
no. It's just exiles everything. Yeah.
Good catch, Twitter person. I said something dumb.
And she's
played
cast
our 2
one
spells,
spell, Goblin Charbelcher, and there
Seething
it is.
Song and Charbelcher.
Well, that's what I mean. The 1 spell and then Charbelcher. That's what
I'm curious what our last. We got a Rite of Flame and
I think an Empty of the Warrens is in there.
We got another. We have 3 cards. So
yeah,
this is exciting.
It
could be anything. Could even be a box. It's the land grant, of course.
Oh yeah.
So we have a land grant, a Rite of Flame, maybe an Empty, not 100% on it.
Alright, so Jonathan's turn, Lackey in, and Lackey triggers, puts the Matron into play for Jonathan.
Alright, it's going to be do or die for Kyrie because he's got to be getting Scrapper now. Unless he did something very silly, but I highly doubt he took Scrapper out of his deck.
Yeah, it's just a 1-of.
He's looking at his hand, though. That kind of implies that he has multiple decisions available.
Yeah. Kind of surprising.
Maybe he already drew the Scrapper and he's just thinking about what he should get instead. That's actually a pretty reasonable...
What was it? Get what instead?
Maybe he already drew the Scrapper, so he has to get something else.
Right, yeah. And what is that? Is that a Siege Gang Commander? I didn't quite get a good look at it.
Yeah,
yes,
he
it
got
is.
a Siege Gang Commander. Wow. Is it possible he boarded out the Scrapper?
It seems
like he has to.
Why would he just not... Yeah, like...
This is crazy.
Alright, so Siege Gang Commander should be in his hand. Eventually it should find its way there. There it is. Okay. Trying to fight through Charbelcher. Jonathan Poaletta was able to do it in game 2. Can he do it in game 3? 17 minutes left.
Wasteland Stomping Ground, right? Yeah, we gotta get that right out of there.
So yeah, there's that. Wasteland on the Stomping Ground. And I guess that was past the turn. Kyrie draws another Spirit Guide. So what can she do? Does she have...
Someone points out that if he had the Scrapper, he might just play it off Lackey.
That's what I was thinking, yeah,
but,
like if he had it.
To be honest, like, if he knows enough of her hand and, like, has the Mindbreak Trap, then, like, killing the land should do the trick. Because she has to get to 3 mana off of 2 spells, which is going to be a lot harder without a land. Like, the only ways to do it would have killed him last turn anyway, pretty much, right? I think so.
Alright, so she passes back.
Wow,
Both goblins get in. Siege Gang Commander coming down with some buddies.
Yeah, I guess he just definitely doesn't have a Scrapper, perhaps even in his deck anymore, which is not the sideboarding decision I would have made.
Yeah, seems like that's one card you do want to leave in.
Yeah.
And there
Ancient
went.
Grudge. We drew our Ancient Grudge. Ow.
Yeah.
That'll lock it up. That does the trick.
Charbelcher not so appealing when it's in the graveyard. Not so effective.
Significantly less effective. All right, maybe we drew Ancient Grudge, and that's why we searched up Siege Gang.
That would make a lot more sense.
Yeah, we knew we were going to Wasteland the thing, and that it didn't matter. But I don't know. I still would probably have rather Ancient Grudge than Wasteland, even though I think it's the same difference. On what?
All right, here comes Lackey and friends. Lackey, Matron, Siege Gang Commander, 3 Deadpools. And Lackey Trigger. Puts a Goblin Pile Driver into play.
That's going to present lethal next turn.
Certainly is. Not sure what Kyrie can do, but we know Jonathan has that Mind Break trap. I can't imagine there's any way out of this for her.
I think that's pretty much the lock.
The creature goes back when he loses control. Check. But does the creature ever?
Yeah, Jonathan Poaletta kind of prepared, maybe not intentionally, but just came prepared for dealing with this. Just in the, I don't think, like I said, I don't think it's intentional, but having multiple artifact removal spells plus 3 Mind Break traps. He's just got, just naturally got a sideboard and a main deck if you count the Scrapper that can actually fight this this fight. So Lotus Petal from Kyrie, that's spell number 1.
Yep. And at this point, Jonathan will blow anything on anything, pretty much. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. There's spell number 2.
Light a Flame. 2 Spirit Guides.
Yeah.
Empty
And
the
empty the
Warrens.
Warrens. And I guess here comes the Mind Break trap. No, Mind
Still
Break trap.
had all these Mind Break traps.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's just kind of it.
Yep. She did have 2 Spirit Guides, though. She was actually really close to getting
She was. It was.
2 Spirit Guides and a Lotus Petal.
He had
That
the
turn
ancient-
where he Wastelanded, she had to be only 1 draw step away.
Yeah, I think that Wasteland may have locked it up for him. It was real close. Well, Jonathan Poaletta with Goblins wins his second consecutive match on camera, if I have that information correct.